Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm A.L. Johnson with Elevated Men. Happy to have you here, and I'm even more excited to have this special guest with me right here, Mr. Kenneth Cheadle. How you doing today?
Man, it's great to be here. How you doing?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for those of you who don't know, Kenneth Cheadle is the author of The Millennial Takeover. He's also the host of a very popular podcast called The Adverse Effect. He's a public speaker, former service member, um, all around good guy. And so, definitely happy to have you here, man. What have you been up to lately?
Man, I appreciate that. Just trying to navigate in this new world. I mean, this is a total different setting than we was a couple of years back. So, business looks different, life looks different, the way that we go about things look different. So, finding my pocket in this space and trying to figure out how I'm gonna move in it because it's different.
Definitely, definitely. Man, you're a very humble brother, man. For those of you who are a part of the Kansas City family, I got to tell you, we've got a diamond in our own backyard. And so today we definitely want to recognize that you're a diamond, Mr. Cheadle. You're a diamond, man. Your podcast, you've interviewed some great people, had great conversations, really brought some good ideas to the forefront as it relates to mental health,
Mhm.
overcoming adversity. And so I just want to get a little bit of your backstory for those that don't know you. Where you're from, what have you been through? I know you're here from Kansas City. I was reading your bio. Said you grew up on government assistance, and you went from that to where you are today. And so I think it's absolutely amazing. But let's start from the beginning. Who was Kenneth Cheadle? If I met you, say in the fifth or sixth grade, who was Kenneth Cheadle at that time?
Ooh. I laugh because it's beautiful to have the grace to be able to be in a space where you can look back at those moments and have a smile for it, right? But fifth grade, sixth grade, oh man, I was so scared. I was scared about life. I didn't know what was really going on. I lived in the city. I think I went to DA Homes at that time. At least I was at the beginning of DA Homes. So at the beginning of fifth grade, I was probably getting bullied uh by these two girls because we was poor, man. So I didn't have deodorant at that time. I remember in my fifth grade year, I was getting bullied for not having on deodorant. I mean, boy, these kids, they drove you back then. You know what I mean? You don't know you poor until somebody tells you you poor. And they just ran me through. And like so like at the time back in the day, I would used to sneak into my parents' room and I would find my dad's drawer or whatever, and I would grab some of his deodorant and I'd use it. He's like, "Oh, you too young to use deodorant." I'm like, "Nah, man, I got older problems, bruh." So anyway, that particular day, I could not get in the room. I mean, they was probably doing grown folk stuff or whatever it may be. So the door was locked. So I went to school, and this girl named Tierra, like I remember she drove me, man. I went to the
Yeah.
bathroom. The teacher kept letting me go to the bathroom. I was putting them brown paper towels underneath my arm, trying to wash everything. But just going back into that moment, I found myself perspiring again. So it was a good time to be at the end of that first cycle, the end of that first semester. See, like we always moved during the winter. So we section 8 kids or whatnot, or section 8 moms. So the voucher ran out in the winter. So that particular winter I used to hate moving. That particular winter I was so happy to move, man. It was amazing feeling. And I got to move out south and I ended up going to Simonton Elementary, started a whole new life, became a whole new person, and it was good. I had mad deodorant after that too. Told my auntie, she get your deodorant
He
ready.
said so the armpits were never a problem again.
Nah, got that hygiene
I
thing
feel
going.
you. Yeah, you mentioned something that I find to be true. Like you don't know that you're poor until somebody tells you, and so kids
Mhm.
can be very cruel. As a child, you're just happy. You're around your family. You're at home. You're playing. You're running around outside. You're not worried about whether you have Jordans on your feet or not or name brand clothing. You're just living life. And
Yeah.
so so moving from that.
And the crazy part though about that is that they don't
Yeah,
realize
sure.
that they're poor. Like you, kid, you
Right,
just
right.
poor. Like, what are you doing? So
We
your
in the same neighborhood.
exactly. So your parents
Right.
earn what a couple more dollars more than me or than my parents,
Yeah.
whatever. And that's the separation there. Or they decide that this is what they're going to spend their money on, which is going to be the material things, so that you can then focus on that. Um, so like, but it took me a long time. Like back at that time, I didn't even understand levels of like where they was. I just knew I was being talked about. So like, the poor at that time, you don't even have a a money value to it. You don't understand that the
Right.
next person that's talking to you is just as poor. Like that'd have been the best comeback at the time, but
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
that
And
age.
that's why we got to teach our children financial literacy early, man, so they can ward off the bullies with proper information.
Exactly.
For sure, for sure. Let's get into the adversity, because really the reason that I brought you on, your story is very intriguing to me. Here at Elevating Men, we really like to elevate men and just kind of put you on a platform, allow you to tell your story, things that we can learn from. And so, in your bio, it said that your stepfather passed away in
Mhm,
2000.
mhm.
Um, what was that like for you? What was your relationship like with him? And how did that change your life?
Mm. So the relationship, like leading up to that year, it was like, I mean, it's like it's interesting. Like the stepfather role piece of it. Like you don't even know you got a stepfather until somebody tell you, "Oh, ain't your real dad?"
Right, right,
This man
right,
been there since the beginning, right? But as soon as that context is associated with that name or that person, the kids seem to have a different spiel, like, "Oh, you ain't my daddy," whatever, that type thing. So growing up, we had a decent relationship, but it was very um it was warm when it needed to be, but often cold. Like, you know what I mean? Like we were in
yeah,
that sense of struggle and survival. So it wasn't a lot of time to be so warm. But when it was
yeah,
warm, he was really warm. But
yeah,
oftentimes he was always giving out lessons, life lessons, or just watching you do your thing and observing, and then may give you a nugget here or there or whatnot. But my stepfather had already had a family previous to mine's, so he had already seen a lot of life. He had served in the Vietnam War. My stepfather was old. He had served in the Vietnam War, so his mentality was just a little different. You know what I mean? I learned a lot from him in the space of like how to think on my feet, a little bit of the wit, um, but often, just how to be a man and how to survive in that aspect. I would say we were starting to grow close right as he passed. I recall him coming to um, see me and my best friend at the time, and we was like real jovial that day. And
yeah,
my father hadn't listened to. Uh, I've never known my father go to church. I'd gone to church all my life, and he never even attempted or talked about it. But this particular week that of his passing, he had been playing Yolanda Adams' "Opened Up My Heart to You," that song or whatnot, over and over and over and over again. Like bought the tape and just wound it back, wound it back. That's what everybody was saying. So when he passed, it was a shock because like I said, we were just starting to build that relationship. I was showing them characteristics of me growing and showing that I could add value to the family, being a man type of thing. Uh,
right,
and then like when he was gone, it was like instantly you're put in that place or that position of being a male role leader in that family. Uh,
right.
that right there was scary. I
Hmm.
felt lost, because at 16, like you don't know enough about life. You think you do. I mean, I could
Yeah,
drive, but
definitely.
I
Right,
didn't
right.
I didn't know crap about
Yeah, yeah,
like it wasn't there for me yet. So I started to go down this journey of trying to become a man. And unfortunately for that, like lack thereof, like I even though I had like good real male role figures in my life, I struggled in this space because I needed to feel validated, like that I had arrived at being a man. And
right,
not even
right,
my father's best friend, because I remember talking to him about it. It's like, oh man, you're really doing good. And this is years later, and I'm in my 30s and whatnot. He's like, oh, you're really doing good with yourself. He'll feel so proud of you, and this, that, and the third. And I didn't, I felt like that in that moment, like, yeah, he would. I am a man. And then I walked out the
yeah,
door, and it was instantly left, like it was fleeting. And I was
mm,
chasing something that I already had. And I didn't need that validation, but that validation journey took me on one hell of a spiral for a long time, because you
yeah,
don't have these tools that you have gaps now that a father provides when he's there. Things like I remember one of the things my father used to tell me was like, there's plenty of women out there. Don't be settling down with no one girl, blah 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 blah. This and the third. Well, I took that advice, and
mhm,
the flip side of that coin is he wasn't around to also tell me to turn it off. He taught me how to turn it on, but he didn't
right,
tell
right,
me he starts like, okay, and at this stage, son, this is when you turn it off and blah blah blah. So a lot of mistakes, and I made in my life came because of that lack of that information. There's gaps, and that's just something I feel like I would share because everybody can relate to it. But there's so many other gaps that you as a man go through that you don't
I've
read.
had gaps everywhere, brother. I didn't have my father in the home either.
Oh,
I believe we share something else similar. I only have sisters,
yeah, same.
and so I remember when my father left. He called back. I'm like 7 years old at the time, right?
Hmm.
And he calls back and he said, you know, son, I just want to let you to know you're the man of the house now. I'm like, what? And I remember this vividly, vividly. And so I'm jumping around and, you know, I give my mom the phone and she said, well, what did he say? I said, well, I'm the man of the house now. I'm 7. Right. And I'll never forget her phrase. Her and my sister, man, they like hit the ceiling, like, what did he say? What? And you know, it was just kind of a blur.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to ask you from that, because it's an experience that I share as well, so I know how you feel.
Hmm.
What was it like being a 16-year-old young man trying to be the leader of your family? What type of pressures did you feel? And did those pressures drive you to do anything out of the ordinary or to act out of character for your age?
How by far? Shit, I was in jail quickly. Like one of the first things was is that we didn't have the money to bury my father. So working
Wow.
back at Walmart back in 2000, like we had the money, like we had the plotting thing taken care of because he's ex-military. They pay for that, but they're not doing all the embalming and the funeral
Ex-
services. So we
the
didn't
more expensive part.
have exactly, right. So we didn't
Right,
have that
right.
piece of it. And I was working at Walmart. So this is early 2000. This is when DVD players first come out and Stockman and whatnot. Found myself taking some of those DVD players and I sold like 10 or 13 of them, somewhere in that range, just so we
Mm,
could bury my father or help to contribute to the burying my father. Well, that cost me some shackles. I was in jail for a second and not like a long stint, you know what I mean?
mhm, mhm.
Thank God my auntie and other people around here cared about me enough to like, hey, we gotta get this boy out. So, it's easily getting out, but it's just, you build up a record and doing these things, trying to find yourself. Found myself in, spiraling out of control. Went to jail a couple of more times too. Um,
Yeah.
I think the
Let's
pressure.
pause there for a second. So the jail situation,
Mm,
what was that like? Because a lot of times it's glorified to our young people.
mm.
I've been in jail, I've been here, I've done that, and they see it as a badge of honor. What was it for you?
All right, there's two different types of jails. All right, and it's probably three. I'm gonna tell you about the two I know of. I don't know about the third, which is Fed time. I don't. Mm-mm.
Yeah,
So, as it relates to like county or getting locked up in a little jail cell, and then actually going up to population, two different things. So, have I been in the jail cell and stuff like that? Yes, been in there a few times. You know what I mean?
got it, got
Actually,
it.
to population, went up there once and decided like this is not for me.
This is not for me. Yeah,
Real.
yeah.
So the first thing I remember, like sitting in there overnight, and this time like my auntie and them would come. I'm like, oh shit, where the lawyers at? Ain't nobody getting me out of this situation. So
Right.
it ran over like almost a day or two. So by that point in time, I'm like, man, they ain't coming for you. We about to go upstairs, population. So you go through that whole process, which is kind of for me, like I had a matter of fact, at that time I hadn't even gone in the military yet. So I guess it was a little shocking then. So at that point in time, when you go to population, like you taking showers with everybody. You know what I mean? Before
Yeah.
you go up there, they getting you prepped to go upstairs or whatever is what
Right.
they call it. So
Right.
they gonna spray you
Now you're
down.
16. Are you 16, 17 at the time?
Yeah, I'm in that space.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sure that
It was
was an
different.
experience.
It was
Yeah.
different. Yeah, it's like 17, maybe 18 at the time. Anyway, so I'm going upstairs. They take me upstairs or whatnot, and I remember walking in and I'm like, so they got like these little round lunch tables or whatever, but they're metal, of course, and everything is like stapled down or whatnot. So you can't move it. And this dude is sitting between this other dude's legs and he's getting his hair braided. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's another guy waiting, like, I gotta get my hair braided too.
Right.
I was just like, that's different for me.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
gonna do this. I'm not gonna
It's
do
a, it's,
that was it. Like,
right.
I remember walking out of there, like, because I mean, you scared shitless because first off, I'm a kid. These are
Mhm.
grown men in here. You know what I mean? Even at
Yeah.
18, still a kid. These are grown men that could out physically me, any of the things at that point in time, they can outthink me, out physically me, all that shit. So I wasn't necessarily like I wasn't terrified in the sense of like, oh, I won't be able to defend myself. As a kid, man,
Mhm.
it's whatever. You know what I mean? That's what you think. It
Right.
was more or less of like what did I get myself into? Am I ever gonna get out of this situation? Like, what was I thinking? You start going through that. and you start to realize your resources. Like, I mean, I got a couple of resources. My auntie can give me a couple times, but what if this goes to trial or something like this is gonna
Yeah.
cost me more than what it
Right.
is. And I was blessed enough at that time that the judge gave me the chance to like, hey man, military or jail. So I chose the military. It was probably one of the better things I've done for myself. Now I'm not. I mean, the military is the military. I have a lot of great things to say about it, and there's some things I don't care too much about. But at the same time, it stepped into space when I didn't have any discipline anymore, when I didn't have any structure, and it regave me that discipline, regave me that structure um, to the levels in which I needed. Because I'm still pretty much a rebel, so like I like entrepreneurial. That's why I'm not in the military anymore. But I do love the time that I served in there, and I do love what it gave me. It gave me a different life than I would have had. I wouldn't have gone off to college. I wouldn't be an entrepreneur. Like the military allowed me to see, like one thing is to dream about being an entrepreneur. Being in the
Mhm.
military allowed me to be around soldiers that were already doing it and seeing it. So I'm like, oh crap, this is how you do this. You know what I mean? So being able
Right.
to
Right.
bird's eye views or whatnot.
Now,
So
that's one thing that I've noticed. Men that have been in the military do tend to have a different type of discipline, work
mm,
ethic, routine, schedule, and things like that.
mm.
I've never been in the military myself, and so what do you feel is the main component that drives that? And man, is it the waking up early? Is it the rigorous exercise? Like what were you able to take from that that you could carry into your life now that helps you to be successful?
Oh, it's accountability. Like the whole
Mm.
thing is about accountability. Like a drill sergeant is no more than an accountability partner. That's just
Okay.
yelling at you. It's no like it's no different than a coach. Now you don't know this at that time. You know, what I mean, you in fear
Mhm.
of your life. He's just telling you what to
Right.
do. But that's
Right.
inevitably what it is. They are motivators in a sense. You know, what I mean, giving you that daily motivation. But the thing that I liked about it is we got so much done in a day. Like I've actually asked one of my old friends, she was a drill sergeant. I was like, "Hey, let me get y'all daily log or y'all workout thing or whatever, like what y'all do in a day session, because you do so much by the time noon hits because you're up at 4 o'clock and
Right.
you getting just knocking out stuff. By the time noon hit, that's a whole day, 2 days to work the work that you've done because they
Yeah.
that discipline." I was like, "Oh crap!" So
Right.
as I've gotten out of the military, whatnot, in different spaces in my life, different times. I won't say that I apply it every day. There used to be a point when I did apply it every day, but you
Uh,
go through spots where you have your ups and your downs and your different
yeah.
periods. But whenever I'm ready to get back on my grind, I adopt that same discipline, and it's just a piece of holding yourself accountable. Then that's the
Right.
ultimate
Right.
piece of it is to be able to rise to a space or grow to a space where you're able to hold yourself accountable. When you
Right.
think about the
Right.
Kobe Bryants of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world,
Mhm.
LeBron James, people like this that that they don't need somebody behind them. These people are already motivated. They just need to know where to go. They don't need somebody
Yeah.
to help them motivate. They already got that within them. So when you get to that space, as it relates to whatever you're trying to go after, I think you'd be good. And I think that it's oftentimes when people hear this, they think that this is how I have to be every day. It's like, no, you don't. You
Right. Right.
got a goal or something that you're trying to obtain or whatever that may be, you're gonna have to be that way for a period of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you sacrifice a period of time to get there? And that's the thing. And I think that going through those systems, those organizations, whether it's the military, school, uh, you figure out that hey, if you're willing to sacrifice a little time, if I can sacrifice a little bit of time for the military and give them gains, why can't I
Right.
sacrifice that same time for myself? If I can
That
sacrifice
makes
a
sense.
little bit of time to do these things for these other organizations, can I do that
Right.
same thing for myself?
Mhm.
And you just got to create that structure. And the problem I think that people have is that once you leave a place like the military or you leave a place like high school or college, you then lose that structure because those places are structured. If you go to class every day in college or in high school, as long as you go to class, you do, bare minimum, you go graduate. 4 years, that's what they promise is and whatnot. And they have a syllabus every day, boom, boom, boom. When you get out of high school or you get out of college, there's nobody there anymore giving you that structure. So people
Right.
get jobs, and that job has a structure, but maybe they're structured at their work, but they're not structured at home. So people that can't figure out that gap, what's the disconnect there is that you don't have a structure or foundation in your life, and you got to reestablish that for yourself. You don't have to worry about schools doing it or military's doing it or organizations do it. Do it for yourself. Put your own foundation in place, and that will help you cycle through your goals. So,
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, life is a roller coaster, man. Life
mm,
is a roller coaster, for all of us. And so, in your story, what? what I found interesting is it sounds like you had a adversity growing up, which is the adversity that a lot of us in the inner city face. You know, you're poor, you don't know it, you go to school, they tell you. You
Yeah.
may have self-esteem things that you're dealing with. You know, a lot of us kind of go through that. You lose your stepfather who you were gaining a relationship with.
Mm,
And because of that, you become the man of the house at the age of 16.
mm,
You're trying to look out for your sisters and your mother. You end up getting into some trouble, trying to, you know, create some resources and finances. You end up in jail. You go through all of that. You go to the military and
mhm.
learn structure and discipline. So now things are starting to look up. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what happens when you come back from the military?
You gotta fight to keep yourself from out of those comfort spaces. So just because you go off to better yourself, this is some knowledge for folks, man. You know, just because you go off and better yourself in life or whatever you do for yourself, you still gotta be conscientious of your environment, the places that you put yourself back into, right? Because you can go off to those spaces and get all this great discipline, get all this great structure, get all this motivation, and come back into the same environment and find yourself in that same comfort pocket where people that you left behind are still doing the same exact shit, and you can find yourself doing the same exact thing.
Right.
Really, like because that motor skill or that ability is been sunken in. You got years in that space. You got
Yeah.
6 months, 9 months in this space. You know what I mean? Who
Right.
got
Right.
who's the better pool? So you have to be conscientious about that. And I think when I came back, I was not there yet. I was I found myself, I had missed people. You know what I mean? You miss your
Yeah.
friends, you miss your partners, you miss your family. So
Right. Right.
hey, how y'all doing? I'm gonna see
Yeah.
you tomorrow. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. I'm gonna see you again tomorrow. And next thing you know, you're like, oh shit, I'm fumbling.
You right back in the trap. Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to have a guy that I call like my father figure or a mentor, or pops or whatever. Is a Sergeant Jackson, this guy who's recruited me, but he's been more than just a recruiter. He's been like a father figure in my life. And he came to me. He's like, "Man, the goal or the aim that you're trying to do is like right now you're trying to help, give to your family and things like that. But he's like, I'm gonna tell
Mhm.
you, man, if you don't go off and go do what you need to do, like go off to college, because at the time the military paid for college. It didn't matter what school it was, they was gonna pay the tuition. It's like go to school. I don't want to go to school,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So he's like, whatever level it is that you're trying to give them, that level of comfort or whatever it is. He's like, you're not gonna achieve it at this state. He's like, you got to go away, get what's for you, then you can come back and do some real work. Because right now y'all
Yeah.
just helping each other. After you fall and fumble, they fumble. So we just fumbling over each other, right? And
Yeah.
it was that
Yeah.
piece of it that kind of helped structure me. And I think like a week after that conversation, I wrote in college and was gone. Um, Away from Kansas City, and it was probably like the best thing I could do because at that time, even the military had too much structure on me. I had become so disciplined that I wasn't even fun no more, man. So when I got to college, I was just, I'm not doing this. I'm
Find
not.
some balance.
Yeah, I had no balance. But by having good people up there like my brother and a couple other friends, I went from saying I don't want to be involved in anything to being involved in everything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it was
Right.
just a different world, a different space. It was another pocket. Like life gives you these areas, these spaces to grow. And I just say you got to do your best in those pockets to grow as much as you can. Get away from that. What I ain't gonna do, like be real open minded, and you'll start finding like so many different nuggets. I think of it like Super Mario, man. Like, there's some whistles out there on that board, but you gotta be open to go get it. It's not gonna be in that same
Right.
spot that everything is always in, right? So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that.
You had shared with me before. So, 2005 was a rough year for you.
Mm, yeah.
Uh, house fire. Grandfather passed away. Mother passed away the next day. It sounds like.
Uh-huh.
Uh, share what you will on that, but my main question is, your podcast is called The Adverse Effect.
Mm.
It's about overcoming adversity, and so I really want to get a feel for what was that experience like for you? What headspace did it put you in? Did it cause you to revert back to any old habits, or is this the point that you broke through and learned how to fight? How what was that experience like for you? I can't imagine.
Um, you know, I think I had dealt with loss, so I had understood what loss felt like, but I didn't understand what loss felt like back to back like that. I didn't
Yeah,
understand what loss felt like in the space of like not being able to to grieve properly. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know where to
Mm.
turn to because at this age, people around me hadn't gone. A lot of folks around me hadn't gone through that stuff like my peers. So I didn't have anybody to turn to like, hey, this is what I'm going through. You know what I mean? I didn't even know
Right.
to do that. I was just, putting it all on my shoulders. So when the house fire happened, that was really tragic for us because
Yeah.
even though my sister survived that house fire, um, there's pieces of that that take something away from you. And I saw that back at that time. So that was rough for me because I felt like, I wish I was in that space or I wish I could trade places.
Mm.
Like you wish that you could have protected someone. So being a brother or being the man in the house, you felt like you slipped. You wasn't there. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that was pretty wild. Um, but I would say like she's my superhero. Like to see her go through that and be able to battle and deal with the shit that people have to, the people cruel, man. So they'll say some crazy stuff. They just
Yeah.
don't, the world. You know how the world can be. So watching somebody battle through that and still have a full life and still get
Yeah.
up, smile, and shine every day is a beautiful thing for me. So I really enjoy that piece of it. My grandfather was another key figure in my life or whatever, Tuskegee Airman or whatnot. Um, but a real cool dude. Like, he taught me how to polish my shoes, taught me how to tie my ties or whatnot. He gave me a lot of good things, and I became an alpha because of him. And I
Okay.
actually crossed like the week before he passed, and we ended up gripping each other up or whatnot, doing a little secret, whatever. Right
Yeah.
after he passed.
I know that was a proud moment for him.
Yeah, it was. You know what I mean? It kind of
Yeah.
get to that space. It was like, damn, you did it. Like I did right. Um,
Right.
but I enjoyed that piece of it. So when he passed, like my grandfather died from a broken heart for the most part because he stopped taking his meds. He could have lived longer than that. Most people in that side of the family lived to like be 100 or something like that. So he was like 80 something when he just like I'm
Yeah.
done dealing with it. That's because his wife had already passed. My grandmother had already passed. My grandmother's sister uh, was like she was still alive, and so they started doing computers and stuff together, going to computer class. They all going to computer class, and then she passed away. He's like, man, I ain't got too much of anything left, so that kind of led to that demise. And it was interesting because we did have his funeral on Saturday, and then that Sunday was Mother's Day. And my sister was like, "Hey, you go see mom, blah blah." I'm like, "Man, I got one more final left to take. I'm gonna go up there and take my final because I was going up to Missouri Western. So I can
Right.
go back up there and take this final, whatever. I'll come back down after that on Monday and spend some time with her." Well, that time didn't come. I got a call that night that my mother had passed. I remember racing down from St. Joe to Kansas City. Probably took me about 20, 25 minutes. I was doing 100 the whole way. I didn't care if I got a ticket, and it didn't matter.
Right.
And it was just, like at that moment, I just felt defeated because I was in college. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Like you, in your mind at this age, even still in your 20s, you still can be naive
Yeah.
and very,
Very. Very.
very young in this space. I'm like, hey, God, I'm doing everything right. Why are you doing this? You know what I mean? So you're going through that stage and going through those type of angers. You go through the guilt trip and everything that goes along with grieving. Um, and there was some moments, man. Like I missed a moment to be with my mom for my fraternity at one time, and I'll never forget that day. Like it's ingrained in my mind. And there's two people that experienced that moment with me, um, my two shipmates, whatnot. And it's something that aided me for years for doing that. And I finally got, I've gotten past this since then. But it was a really tragic time. And what into the added injury, the insult was I never got a chance to fully grieve over those three things. And boom, I was getting deployed the next month to Hurricane Katrina. So now I'm
Wow.
right stuck back in more, watching other people go through tragedy and loss and grief. And it's just like, what the hell? So like I was writing this piece down the other day because I was doing this thing for this new course I got going. But I was talking about like, have you ever gotten to a space where you just wanted to give up? Like not quit, not
Yeah.
quit, but give up. And it's totally two different things. And down there in that space, down at Hurricane Katrina, I got to a space I was low enough to where I was ready to give up. I was like, I think this is it for me. I don't want to do it no more. And I ended up getting out of the military due to like black mold that we experienced down there, Hurricane Katrina, yada yada. So it was a health thing, whatever. And I knew like when I got back to college, I planned to pack up all my stuff. I didn't know where the hell I was going, but I was done. I got back to
Yeah.
college, and there was this goal chart that I had put in my closet, and it's something I wrote to my mom, like promises that I had made over the years when we were young. You kids, you tell your mom, "I'm gonna get you this,"
Right. Right.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to be Kevin Durant out here, right? So,
Right. Right.
um, I saw that and I broke down, and that put me back in the space to get re-geared and recharged back up. Like I still had things to complete. You know, as it relates to death, I don't look at it as like I used to do. Like it used to be like so doom and gloom for me, and the world was the end. Blah blah blah. But I've
Yeah.
seen how that does with people. Man, I've seen how deaths in my family have done to other siblings and other folks that are around me. So for me, um, I deal with it. I allow it to take its course as far as the grieving process. But I don't
Right.
look at it as, like, the sadness. Like people came here, they taught me lessons, they gave me I enjoyed that time. Like I look at it from a more of a celebration standpoint as far as that life
Yeah.
that I had with them instead of the doom and gloom. And it took a while to get that space, but you go through enough of it, you'll start to find the
Yeah.
other side of it. And it's that's cool.
How has your experiences in dealing with death changed the way that you deal with people in your life now that you love? Do you find yourself to be more in the moment? Do you find yourself to be more loving? Do you say things that need to be said now? How did it change you?
Mm. Well, initially it was probably like bad. Like I used to use it as fuel. So I would just go off and I'll go do things, I accomplish things or whatnot, but I was avoiding it. So I had to get
Yeah.
therapy for that aspect. Like, I didn't used to deal with it. It didn't, I just wouldn't let it bother me. Like it would take a year. Like I'll give you an example. Like one time my uncle passed away. Remember him passing, remember going to the funeral. It didn't register me that he actually passed away until a year later on his birthday. That's when it kicked in. And everybody's like, oh, I'm like, damn, he is gone. And then I
Right.
started going through that process, and it's because I will avoid it. Like, I'm gonna go, I got other stuff I gotta do. It's like I will compartmentalize it. As a man, we're really good at that. We're really
Definitely.
good at compartmentalize. So I just set it
Yeah.
off to the side, like I'll get back to that in the time. And I don't
Yeah.
do that anymore. Like, you know what I mean? I don't look like I said, I don't look at it as doom and gloom. I really embrace and celebrate the lives. But I might allow myself to go through that pain cycle. You know what I'm saying? Through that emotion. Shit. Last week, I lost my dog. I had my dog for 9 years. That's like having a son. It
Yeah.
destroyed for a while. Like, that whole week, all last week is blur. It's gone. You know what I mean? I had puffy eyes and everything. You don't think that you're gonna have that level of emotion for an animal, but when
Yeah.
you think about 9 years of dedicating, this is something that you do day in, day
It's
out.
part of your routine.
It's
Yeah.
part of your routine, and then it's just
Yeah.
gone. And then in the way in which he passed away, it was just like, damn. You know what I mean? He's supposed to have 5, 6 more years. So to have that happen, it was leveling, and I couldn't function. But I allowed myself to go through it. I didn't just say, "Well, oh, man, I got to be the man. I got to go, tough this out." I've done that before. I know how that ends. I know
Right.
exactly how that
Right.
ends. It's going to end
Yeah.
with me somebody's therapy. It's going to end with me being angry or something like that because I haven't addressed the real issue. So,
I
yeah.
see. I see. So getting through the adversity. So we've kind of talked about your adversity. You've overcame a lot. Definitely proud of you. As a friend and just somebody who's kind of been through some things. I
Sure.
commend you for the way that you got over it and have found success in spite of. And so after all of this, let's get out of the heavy stuff. Let's get out of the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
The adverse effect. Obviously, you've been through adversity, you've overcome it, but what made you start the adverse effect, and exactly what is it? What's its purpose?
So, like with the adverse effect, I often say, like, how do you affect the effect, right? So, life is gonna happen to you. It's gonna hit you in the mouth. It's gonna punch you. It's gonna be good to you too. Like it is peaks and valleys. This is life. We often think that like, okay, when I get this, this, and this, and this, then it's always gonna be up here. And it's like, no, that's not true. I know
Right,
people up
right.
here still go through this here. There is no financial level of money that's gonna take away the problems. Like I saw a quote by 50 Cent the other day that said, success doesn't stop the struggle, and struggle doesn't stop the success. That's real. Like, I
That's
mean,
real.
all
Yeah,
levels it's gonna be there, right? So um for me, like, the adverse effect came from the space of, I've been traveling for 13, 14 years now weekly. I listen to a lot of people tell stories. Now, I don't invite people to tell stories, man. People have, I just have this magnetic connection to folks sometimes, and they would just tell stories. I'd be on the plane like this, and they'd be like, hey, huh? You know,
Yeah.
when they talk, like, yeah, I think it's back there. You just hit the button, boom, like, so is this your first flight? Well, let me go ahead and, you know,
Right. Right. Let's have this conversation. Yeah.
exactly, we're in that space. So in doing so, like, it has allowed me to see that we're a lot more alike than not.
Yeah.
um, in the sense that we're all going through something. Like oftentimes that we're thinking we're the only one that's going through a problem. We're the only one that's been through a problem. Um, and so one of the things that I created the show for was to build up a community so that you first know that you're not the only one going through something. And then the other piece of it is that I allow these people to share their stories so that we can take nuggets from those stories to then utilize those tools that may help it out in our own stories, or maybe we know someone that's going through something that you're like, oh damn, shit, I know Stanley going through this over here. I just heard this, and boom, you
Right.
pass it over to that brother or whatnot. So just different nuggets that we can have and throughout life that other people have gone through that you can share. So um, on that show, man, we've interviewed people from rape victims to triple breast cancer survivors, uh, pilots. I mean, everything you can think of, because there's just different walks. And one of the main focuses I'm trying to shift the show to, or what is, like, I guess it's kind of always been like that in the background, is like how to help my culture. You know what I mean? It's one of the
Yeah.
reasons I wrote that book, Millennium Takeover. Like the reason I wrote that piece and the reason I'm doing this is because I've gone through a lot of these struggles, or gone through the struggles that a lot of people have when trying to excel in the career. And these are
Right.
things I didn't know as being a first generation career professional. So I bumped my head a lot, and they was go get rid
Mhm.
of my butt. That's probably planning on firing me. And it's just these different mentors along the way that have given me knowledge and given me information. So when I got that information, I'm going for it. I'm like, shoot, I know somebody could use this. You know what I mean? So I kind
Yeah.
of created that to kind of be like the cheat code book, like on the Super Mario game or whatever, like that. Like here's what you should be doing, or an idea what you should be doing in order to get to this level or to get to this
Right.
stage, right? And the same thing as it relates to adversity. Like we're gonna always experience adversity on a day-to-day basis. How
Mhm.
can I help you get through that? How can I help you
Right.
find the best you? How can I help you embrace the adversity? Because
Mhm.
oftentimes, like we were talking pre-show, man, people run away from it. They'll avoid it because that seems safer. That seems peaceful. But they know it's nagging. So I gave you the example of like the tax guy. So matter of
Yeah.
fact, I'll give you my example of the tax guy, right?
I
So
got one too.
right. So about 6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, man, I knew that I owed taxes. The first time I had started breaking into some money, and the government wanted like 30 or 40 grand in taxes. I was just like,
Mhm.
I want to do it. I didn't have it. So I saw like the first letter come, you thinking like, it's all good. I got the first letter. And then after that, every subsequent letter, I didn't open it up. I knew what it was. And it just
Right.
built and it built. And it just terrified me because in my mind, I like, I gotta pay this bill off right now, today, the whole whopper.
In
So
full. Right. Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
even in rap songs, they go get me. Even in Set It Off, I don't mess with three people. The I, the R, and the S. So I'm trying to avoid this, man, like the plague,
Right.
right? But I was avoiding the adversity. I didn't embrace it. So
No.
day when I finally decided, like, I can't keep doing this. This is
Yeah.
affecting me in other areas. It got me stressed out. I'm supposed to be out having a good time, but I'm too busy thinking about this phone call or another letter coming through. What is it? Well, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I call the people, they're like, bruh, all you got to do is set up a payment plan. You be good. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll stop.
Right.
I'm like, you serious? Like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right, okay, cool. So let's go. You get going. And it's like that in life. It's like that in life a lot of times. Like
We
a
do
lot of
that a lot. You're right. You're right.
yeah,
We avoid things. It becomes a bigger problem. We avoid it some more. It becomes even bigger, and starts affecting everything.
exactly.
Areas that it wasn't even supposed to touch. And so, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Issue
The
problem.
millennial takeover.
Mhm.
So I was reading. So at one point you worked with someone cleaning windows in a rich neighborhood, and so you were able to see something different finally. And I completely feel that. There's a conversation me and one of my friends have about what children see growing up. basically gives them an idea of what their potential is. And so when you grow up in these neighborhoods that are blighted, you see a bunch of run over buildings, trash all over, empty lots, and things like that, it really closes your mind to what's available to you in the world. And so, what was that experience like in opening your eyes and seeing something different? Like, how did that affect your mindset?
Man, that was life changing for me because like growing up in the urban core, growing up in that spot or those spaces, you're almost programmed not to go into these other areas, right? Not
Yeah,
in the sense of don't go because like, oh, you're not. I mean, you feel like, oh, you're not welcome or whatever, but you feel like you'll be bothered. Like I feel like if I go out to Lee Summit at that age I go out to Raytown or I go out to
yeah.
Overland Park, I'm gonna be harassed because I'm black.
You stand out like a sore thumb,
Well,
you
no,
know.
like back at that time, I remember getting pulled over in Raytown for being black. So
Yeah, yeah.
plenty of times, and I lived on Raytown Road at one point. It's like, damn, I live right down the street.
Right, right.
But like, so these are the things that will prevent you from going to certain spaces. So as a
Hmm.
kid, I'm like, okay, I can't go here. I can't go. Like you getting the lay of the land from your parents. Don't go out here. Don't be out there. Boom, boom, boom. You can go all these places. They
Exactly.
telling you
Yeah.
what kids' house not to go to, and then what areas of the city not to be in either. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yeah.
So that 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 right there kind of gives you the parameters or this invisible fence line
Yeah. Like
where
when
you
they say we're closed minded, like you
yeah,
close our minds as a child by telling us, hey, you can't go here, you can't go there.
exactly,
I get it. I get it.
exactly. So you like you live in that space where you be like, oh, this is all this crabgrass, all this is your reality. So I remember
Yeah.
going out to I was working with Sergeant Burnham cleaning windows as a summer job, and we went out to Black Bob Road. It was when some of the
Okay.
first
Olathe. Yeah.
yeah, man. Never
Right.
seen houses like that. Never seen people just out just strolling down the streets with the grass
Hmm.
looking all good. What the hell? It's like
Yeah.
this is Pleasantville, right?
Right,
So
right.
we roll up in there and one of my sergeant's things like don't ask people what you know what they do or anything. Like matter of fact, just don't talk to folks.
Yeah.
Rebel kid me, right? So
Right.
first thing I'm doing, we clean up. Lady started asking me questions. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So what do you do for a living? Boom, boom. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a teacher. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
teacher. Live like this, like a teacher. Cool, cool, cool. She's like,
So
yeah,
teachers don't make that much.
right now. She's like, my husband,
Right.
he's a supervisor at a Target. What it did for me is it helped me understand that I didn't have to be a ball player or some entertainer or some drug
Yeah.
to obtain this level of success or this level what I believe what success was. It's a material thing, but
Right,
that
right.
level of life, I'm like, I don't have to be this person. I can be this everyday Joe. Now there's a couple more struggles and hurdles for blacks, so I ain't gonna fake it to you like it's all great, but it is not what I thought it was.
Right.
Um, and it was an eye-opening moment for me because I think when I was doing that, I was probably like 22, 21, 22, or
Hmm.
whatever. And beforehand, I didn't think I was capable of doing that. By the time I was 24, I bought my first house off of Berry Road up north or whatnot because I had saw that. Before then,
Right.
my mind frame was I was only gonna be purchasing in a certain area code, certain
Yeah.
restrictions, and this, that, and the third. As soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm capable, I'm able, and this is where I'm going.
It's just like physical world records, whether it's track or,
Mhm.
high jumps, the number of points scored in the basketball game. Once a barrier has been broken, it opens our mind to the possibility. And I think that's the most interesting thing about our psychology is that we're completely closed to what we're closed to in our mind. And
Mhm.
as soon as we release those chains and open our mind, it can become a reality in our physical world. And I think so many people miss that point. And
Mhm.
so, what was that like for you? Like I said, you saw something different. It opened your eyes, and so you started to do different. Now, of course, as we change, there's something. There's a book I love. Outwitting the Devil, and he talks about hypnotic rhythm and you getting stuck. Like you alluded to it before, where you went away, you established a different routine from being in the military, but then
Mhm.
you come back home and you're around the same people every day, and so it's easy to jump right back into that same way of life. And
Mhm.
so, at this point, do you feel like you were able to completely break away from that, and where was the point where you were able to break away and not look back?
Hmm. You know, that's a great question. It's a really, really, really good question. Um,
So I hear like the military is like the military helped you establish some principles, but you were still able to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
But now you're at the point where you're seeing something different. Like, did that make the change, the lasting change?
I would say as far as my trajectory is going forward, yeah, like 100%. Like I didn't look back after that. I knew that I wanted to go in these spaces, but the problem with that charter is I didn't know where the hell I was going. um,
Okay, okay.
but I knew I was going somewhere. Like, and that's another reason, like I do the work that I do because I try to help people that were like me in that space that have all this ambition, all this motivation to be better and want better for themselves, but they still don't know how or where to go. You know what I mean? But at
Yeah.
the time, I didn't have that piece of it. But what I did learn from that experience is to always have an open mind. So you spoke about that earlier. That's my secret sauce. Like the secret sauce to all of my success has always been to be open minded, to hear other people's versions of me that I can't acknowledge myself, where I can be better.
Mm, yeah.
Um, to see other people's story and like, oh, okay, I think that's possible for me. Like I'm never really closed off from the possibilities or this is another way it could be versus what I thought it could be. And because I'm
Mhm.
not in that space, it's allowed me to push forward. Sometimes we'll get hindered by our belief systems. Like I ain't it. I ain't when now my mama told me this, my mama told me this. And boom, you won't go
Right.
forward because you so stuck because your emotion and your relationship to your mother or your father, your pastor, or whoever told you whatever they told you, your brother, whatever the case may be is so strong, and you'll take that emotion because your like and love for them
Right.
to
Right.
allow what that information is to be either discredited or
Right.
you know added to like, hey,
Yeah.
that's right, but if you put this with it, and this is
Mhm.
where we go with that. So for
Absolutely.
me, being able to be in this space, like, to just be able to acknowledge that, like, and it doesn't feel good oftentimes. Like if somebody's gonna critique you and give you information back about yourself that you can't see, it doesn't often feel good, but
Yeah.
it's often needed in order for you to grow. It's no different than a coach or anything in that space. Like you need to, in order for you to get to the next best level of you, you're gonna be uncomfortable when somebody
Right.
does reflection on you. You're in a relationship, you're in a good committed job, what are those things? Those are reflection points in your life because they tell you who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
Yeah.
everything that's said back to you is 100% true, but there's some there, especially if you've heard it over a couple of times. And then it's not just in that negative aspect. Be open minded to new possibilities. You know what I mean? I remember in my career, somebody was like, "Hey, you could actually do this certain solution better," and yada yada yada. And, other folks in my circle are like, "I'm not changing. I've been doing this for this long. I make 100 some odd dollars now doing this. I'm still doing this." I'm like, "Nah, I probably need to pivot." Like, what they said makes sense. I'm checking out the future, the forecast, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I'll go upskill in this area. And then boom, what they did I said happens. And those other people were kind of faulted on that and they not doing so well. And I'm doing well because I decided to listen to that bit of knowledge and not just listen to it, do the homework on it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
There's people out here that I challenge everybody to do the work as far as relates to the information. There's so much information out here and
Yeah.
people so easy to regurgitate or fall in love or get roots in somebody else's belief system without even finding your own or figuring out
Yeah.
if it's true. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Right.
like, I call it like grocery store Christians and former Christians. And it's the thought process that when you see a grocery store Christian go in, what's that mean is it's like a grocery store Christian. This is the Christian that whatever their mother, whatever their father, whatever their pastor tells them, and it's true.
Right.
They've never read the Bible. If they do, they only read it when they told us to read it at that point in time.
Yeah.
Like, all right, let's read from here to here, or whatnot. But they haven't done their own research. So whatever
Man,
they
that's social media for you. That's why we have so many
yeah,
rumors and things like that. I think it
no,
was one going around last year. I forgot who it was. Maybe Morgan Freeman had died and he wasn't dead. Somebody reads the headline, reposts it, and yeah, it's just true because they saw it.
that's the space. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
wild, man, and you have to protect
Man.
yourself against that.
Awesome, awesome, man. Dude, I appreciate having you on here. Tell us a little bit. So the adverse effect. I know you're at what 70 some odd episodes. I go on
Yeah,
Instagram. You're over 15,000 followers. You got people all over the country who are loving what you're doing. The brand is growing. You have some of the best marketing and branding that I've seen. I'm just being honest, man. It looks very professional. Everything looks great. What's in store for the adverse effect in the future?
Yeah. Actually, that's a good question as well. I have a course coming out, which is the adverse effect course. It was really helping people with the fundamentals of everyday adversities. We got 5 pillars that range from physical, mental, spiritual, financial, things in that space, and just trying to teach people, like how I was talking about before, how to embrace that, how to create a strategy for it, and then move forward in your life. Uh,
Yeah,
so, I mean, I really think this is going to be a great program. So I'm really excited about that. But in concert with that is I'm going to kind of shift a little bit of direction with the podcast, still continue to grow, but I'm able to see numbers now. So now that we got
yeah,
data in front of me, I'm like, oh crap! So I can see where I'm good in some spots, and certain spots I need to grow. So I got this analytical team that's telling me like, hey, this is how we get to this next level in this. Um,
okay,
so I want to continue to bring people things that they want to hear. So for a long time, it's been what I thought they wanted to hear. Going forward with the show is going to be what they want to hear, infused with things that wisdoms and things that I've learned along the ways, and other people that I get knowledge from and mentors I've learned along the way. So it's going to, continue to grow, continue to give people some upbeat stuff, some knowledge is the main thing.
yeah.
Motivation there as well, but knowledge is the main thing. That's the key. Applied knowledge. I want people to apply it. So
Exactly, exactly. You can't just sit on it.
yeah, the show we always put homework in our show notes, so people can
Yeah,
actually practice what they heard. You know what I mean?
I
They
noticed that. I like that.
heard. So yeah.
I like that a lot. And so, the Millennial Takeover. I know that was your first book. Any other books in the works?
Yes, I am. I actually got an adversity book coming out. It's uniquely different in the sense that I wrote a book before where I just kind of went through it. This time I wanted to do a lot of short stories. So it's going to just be a whole bunch of book of short stories. And a lot of these short stories are going to be centered around some of the adversities that I've gone through and how I actually got out. Like that's some real good nuggets and keys of how I got out of there. And I got a couple of decent friends, some notable name friends that people like, oh man, you know that person, that are gonna actually contribute to a chapter or two. So it should be good. Like my whole
Definitely
thing,
looking forward to it.
Red, like man, I've dedicated my life to helping people. Like seriously, like that
Yeah,
gets me that warm and fuzzy piece of it. So a lot of my work is all centered around that. Um, that's the space I'm in, man.
awesome, awesome. And last question: if you can leave one bit of impact on the world before your time comes, what would that be?
Mm. Man, man. You got some good questions there, brother. Back when I was young, I used to have the Jesus complex. I wanted to save everybody. And it didn't matter what I was like, I gotta get everybody, I gotta save everybody. We can all do this type thing.
Right,
And I still do, actually. I just have a more realistic way of getting that done.
right,
So for me, one of the impacting things that I want to do is try to help unlock the change that's on the minds of people in our culture. That's the biggest thing. I mean, we just talked about one of those things, which is um, what you're capable of, right?
right. Yeah,
So we got a lot of minds that still don't know if they're capable of great things. They're still
mm,
locked and subjugated to the system. Like I tell people, man, the system works. When I wrote my
right.
first book, I wrote it for young teens and adults, people going off to get ready to go off to college. And as I've gone through different workshops and speaking engagements, I've reached one or two different people, which is actually really good. Like I used to be like, man, that's really, really, really good.
Right, right.
But what I realized is that I should have wrote the book for kids much younger because sometimes by that time of 18, 19, 20, the system is already set in. So
Absolutely.
a lot of work to undo. And the system works. I tell people like the system that they have designed around certain economics and places and culture, it's really strong. It really works.
Very
Mentally,
effective.
very effective. Um, so that's the tough work. So my goal is to continue to unlock those minds, to get them as early as I can, and then also unlock the challenge minds, the minds that have been set in their ways that want something better. I'm always interested in the person that has the, like I said, they have the motivation, they have the desire, they just don't know, they don't have the how, they don't have the
Yeah, yeah.
what door do I go through? Like which door am I supposed to go through?
Right, right, right.
And people like, in our culture, we'll do something like, man, figure it out on your own, figure it out on your own, figure it out yourself. The problem with
You
that,
got Google.
right, right.
Right,
So the problem
right, right.
that we're so scary about somebody taking something from us, or they can't be one of
Yes,
us. But like, dude, seriously, nobody's gonna take your one deal. I mean, in the sense that if we were both doing the same, like right now, we both have podcasts. I'm not
exactly.
with you about this podcast thing, like that. That's crazy.
Right.
You have people that have that mind frame that that's the way it is. I can't share this information with you. And I've worked real hard to get it. Now I respect it to some degree. Like I'm not asking you to give away your secret sauce as
Yeah,
far as like the antidote of your recipe or something like that. But there are very good guiding steps that you can give people from the culture, from your own, to help them get to where they're going. And since
I
we
mean,
have
my biggest example is there really is no competition. If you just take the number of people there are in the world and the fact that we have internet access and can reach everybody, there is no competition. I'm not too far off Nolan Road. There's a Wendy's, a McDonald's, a Hardee's, a Burger King, all, all right there.
doing
And
millions.
they're all doing very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely that mind frame is hindering, and the thought process is that, in our culture we often have a lot of gaps in our households because either parents aren't there or not
Hmm.
steadily and things like that. If they was and they had this knowledge would then be given. So as a community, we got to do the community work. If you obtain some knowledge that you feel like it helps somebody that you see struggling out there or whatnot, why not give them that piece of it? Like I said, I'm not advocating for people to give up they one thing that makes their whole empire work. Hey,
Right.
keep that. I respect it. I keep mines.
Yeah.
However, there are things that can be shared that can help people along the journey instead of just looking back and looking, they'll figure it out. If they don't figure it out, they didn't want it. They didn't want it that much. No, people that say that that's the one thing that irritates me. Oh, they didn't want it that much. They didn't want it that much. Somebody told you about the piece that you didn't know. That's how you got it.
Exactly.
Oh, they didn't want that much because they didn't ask the person that you knew. Maybe you
Yeah. Yeah.
get that information so that you can
And
then
sometimes people don't even know the question to ask.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my work is working with those people that are out there in that space. That's for everything I do is kind of centered around in that space. Is like helping the folks that got it. They got the everything. They just don't know the how.
Right.
So that's
Right.
the millennial takeover. That's the adverse effect. Because in this space, like I've gotten away from just trying to do everything because everybody ain't hungry. So you gotta get the people that they want it. They hungry for it.
Right. Yeah.
Then I can help you. I want to help you. So
Well, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. You're well on your way. Anything that we can do here to support you, I'm definitely for it, man. I love everything that you do. How can people get in contact with you? How can they tune into the podcast? How can they keep up with Mr. Kenneth Cheadle?
yeah, so name kimcheadle.com. That's the websites. Also social media is the same exact thing. And then the adverse effect on any of your listening platforms or type of my name on any of your listening platforms, and that's where we are. We're everywhere. But Kim Cheadle or the adverse effect, I'm pretty much running those. Ain't nobody gonna take Kim Cheadle, so we good there. But the adverse effect, I got that on lock too, just in
There
case.
we go. There we go. You got it, man. You got it. Well,
But
hey,
I'm
bro, I appreciate you, man. I reached out to you. I'm like, man, I need to have you on the show. You're like, hey, let's do it. And here you are. And so I definitely
yeah,
appreciate that. I'm sure anybody who listens to this will be able to grab some nuggets out of it because you dropped some really big ones. So I appreciate you, man. But definitely we're going to support everything that you're doing. I'm putting your website in the chat. And so people definitely go click the link, check out the website, check out everything it's got going on. Listen to the podcast. It's on every
appreciate you.
podcasting station you could possibly think of, and so it's very easy to find. And I'm sure it's something that'll bless your life. But again, thanks for joining us. Any last words?
Man, just stay blessed, stay safe. Delta variant is real. It's real.
That's real. That's real. Man, I hope we don't have another shutdown, but that's a whole nother show.
My business can't afford it, but yes, you're correct. I hope we don't either. Now, man, you know what? I just tell people like in this time, like really be encouraged. This is the time to be encouraged. All that stuff that we practiced and we talked about and we used to say with the cliches and the quotes, this time, all those things we just is action this time. Like have that encouragement. Be awake, be loving, be all these things because this world needs it right now. You need all those things activated. It's not one of those things you can just say. So that's my advice to people. It's rough out there right now.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, I appreciate each of you, one of you for tuning in. Share this podcast, share it with your friends and family. Of course, we're always going to be coming back with more people who can inspire you and help you to live a better life. My name is A.L. Johnson. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day.